But yeah, that's a bold move to be talking hot shit when you go 6-6 and your coach gets fired at the end of the year, beating a bad Weber team. Like that's a okay. You guys, more power to you, I guess, for taunting that.
Yeah, and so I don't know what's gonna happen. We'll see.
Welcome back, Mighty Vandals, to Tubs at the Club, brought to you by Snake River Stampede Whiskey. We'll tell you a little bit more about that later in the show. We are the Idaho Vandals affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. I am your host, Dallas Hammer, joined today by brave, bold friend of the pod, Colby Peterson.
Hey man, I appreciate that. Yeah, I was glad to get the call. Be like, hey, you want to talk about Idaho? Like, absolutely.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Well, Colby, I'll circle back to you in just a second. But last but not least is producer redacted, the man in Moscow himself. It's Martin Heemstra. Martin, how's it going, man?
It's going good. It's another week of Vandal football here in Moscow, and I'm excited to watch Idaho take on Utah Tech, formerly known as Dick C State.
Oh, a little naughty there, Martin. I love the English on that one. But guys, in case you missed it in those first 10 seconds, Brian is not here today. He's off on the Nickelback tour. So we called in the ringer. It's Colby Peterson. He's a longtime friend of the pod. Colby, a lot of folks know you from Weber State Weekly, but you haven't been here in a while. Why don't you tell the folks what you've been up to before we kick off some Vandal talk?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, Weber State alum, so of course, long suffering, and we're doing that right now in Ogden. But also had been doing Walk On Apparel, so I want to take a little bit of time to thank. There were a lot of Vandals fans that supported Walk On Apparel while we were doing it, especially folks who were here at Tubs of the Club. So thanks to everybody who bought Idaho gear from us at Walk On Apparel. You guys were great. Idaho was far and away our best school. Like there were a lot of months where Idaho fans paid the bills at Walk On Apparel. So you guys are the best, man. We really appreciated you.
Love that, man. We hope to see Walk On come back soon. Without stepping on the toes of our other sponsors, we loved Walk On. We really hope you guys come back soon in bigger and brighter and whatever that ends up being. But fingers crossed. To move on, guys, we're just going to jump right into Around the Bar, brought to us by Hughes River Expeditions. If you are looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation, do not look past your backyard. Hughes River Expeditions has been Vandal owned and operated since 1976, and they're ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the middle fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River of No Return, the Salmon River Canyons, or even the Selway. And you could check out special trips like one to see the Perseid meteor shower. Camp on pristine beaches, run amazing whitewater, hike scenic trails, spot wildlife, soak in beautiful natural hot springs, and fish the most remote stretches of river in the entire United States. Just bring your clothes. HRE is going to handle everything else. Grab a paddle, catch dinner, and ride the bull all throughout the Gem State. Call them now at 406-540-4450 or check them out at hughesriver.com. All right, Colby, Marten, it's time. We are previewing, as Martin said, Dick, C-State, or more commonly known now as Utah Tech, the Trailblazers. Colby, before we get into this, first 2 weeks of Vandal football, give me your quick thoughts before we dive into this week's opponent.
Oh, about the Vandals?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like I thought that the game. So first year defensive coordinator, right? And so I thought that the game against Wazoo, obviously that's a rivalry game, but just across the border for you guys, and good to see it come back. But the defense was great in that game, right? Like it really kept the team in it. The offense obviously struggled because it was a low scoring affair, but like I thought that that was a nice way to start the season for the Vandals. But then, Tom, you're the man. But then also last week, I mean, you guys talked about this with Kevin Marshall from FCS Nation Radio last week about how the Tommies were not going to be easy, and the defense still continued to like do what they needed to do to get that game handled, right? So my impressions are that like the defense, you when we talked when I was putting together that preview for FCS Nation Radio talking about the Vandals, you said that they were going to try and simplify the defense, and it seems like so far that's worked.
For the most part, it has. Last week, there were some execution problems. I think put is a light way to put it. I have not heard from any sources close to the team this week, but I would assume that defense coordinator Court Dennison, and as Brian calls them, Court's denizens. I'm going to guess the denizens of Court probably got their assholes reamed last week for just some of the poor execution and freelancing that was going on. You think that gets cleared up a little bit this week? Again, it's just that the team continues to grow under the first few weeks of real football season under new head coach Thomas Ford. But moving on to Utah Tech, this is going to be a game I think very similar to St. Thomas, where Idaho is going to be favored. The pretty cut and dry here.
Yeah, they should be.
Absolutely should be. NAU, Utah Tech head coach Lance Anderson is in his second season as a head coach. He's 1-13. The only victory he's got is Central Arkansas last year. This year they lost 38-31 to NAU. They were down 31-10 over in halftime, and then NAU just about let them come back and steal a victory there. The week before that, 31-24 lost to UC Davis, but Utah Tech led 24-7 midway through the third before UC Davis finally pulled it around. So Colby, with that said, and this is my favorite stat, Utah Tech is 5-35 all time against ranked opponents. This is not a team that is known for football success. With that said, you've got the outline. You know Utah football better than I do. Tell me what you got about Utah Tech.
So the one thing that I've seen so far, I mean, because Utah Tech, like, they're only a couple of years removed from being D2, right? Like, they've just come up. Like, I think this is like their third or fourth season being in D1, and they'll be coming to the Sky next year, right? So, like, fine. So they're sort of starting themselves off this season with kind of a nice, little bit of a Big Sky schedule, right? And they have a rivalry with SUU who will be coming with them, so that's fine. But this has been a feistier Utah Tech team than I think I have ever seen. Like you've talked about, like, the last two opponents that they've faced, Davis and NAU, not bad teams, right? Not bad Big Sky teams. Definitely middle of the pack in the conference. they kind of slept on him in those second halves. Or like Davis, they really took a while to get going, and then they said, okay, we're going to win this game. Because I think everybody in Big Sky Podcast Network, when we were watching those scores throughout the night, we were like, what?
Yeah,
Davis is doing what? And at the same time, I guess we really didn't know what to expect from Davis because, the whole thing at the Crampton Bowl where the game got vacated and they were maybe kind of on the ropes. Mercer was doing the things and coming back. So
yep, they looked real good, and then all of a sudden, I feel like that game getting canceled might have worked out best for them.
Yeah, because it looked like maybe Mercer was going to do something. So I guess Davis has slept now on two opponents at least in the last 2 weeks, and and NAU sort of doing the same. Like I would say, do not sleep on them the way that the previous two opponents have. I think Idaho is good enough to put them away and do it early. Like don't let teams hang around and believe. Like that's when you get yourself into trouble. And I think if Idaho can come out and play their game, and my understanding is that this will be the 50th anniversary game for Kibby Dome. So there's going to be a big celebration. A lot of folks will be in town. Like the atmosphere should be good, and it should be the kind of environment that seems like Idaho should hopefully feed from that. Go out and do what they do best early, and put Tech away. Not have to worry about things at halftime, right?
Yeah, really hoping that this. I don't think this game is going to end up looking like an ISU game from the last few years. But if Idaho can go into halftime with enough of a lead that it's like, hey guys, we obviously can't just take the feet completely off the gas and the hands off the wheel, but we can play just against the clock here and just run this out to a victory. That's what I really want to see. You mentioned the 50th anniversary. We're going to get to that in a little bit of time, guys. But for me, something that is always nerve-wracking about a team like this, and Colby, you have a little bit of experience with this. Weber State maybe not quite as frequently as like a Utah Tech or especially like a BYU does, but there are some old Mormons on this squad. There are a lot of guys that went on their mission and came back. So both of their quarterbacks are older guys. One of their quarterbacks graduated in 2020, and 5 years in, he's a junior here. Most of their offensive line is that as well. What does that do for a team when, you have legitimate adult men running your offense?
Yeah, I think it plays a part, right? And a lot of people have talked about that, about how, you just skip 2 years and now all of a sudden you have guys who are 20 starting as freshmen, freshmen. And it's like, that's a different kind of thing, right? And of course, like they're not necessarily in a football environment. So, but it matters, right? It matters. And in the rundown, you talked about size on the lines, and that makes a difference, right? And so I think that that's where coaching comes in, and it's where Idaho can have maybe somewhat of an advantage because yes, like some of these guys are older, but at the same time, I don't think that the coaching staff is the same in St. George as it is in Moscow. Like I think Moscow has expectations, and they've hired coaches that are a cut above, and Utah Tech's still trying to figure stuff out. And so coaching matters, size matters, of course, but coaching matters as well.
And that's the big thing for me. I know, guys, you can look at it and say, hey, Thomas Ford is only in his third game as the Vandal head coach. And yeah, he had a couple of years with Simon Fraser, and he only won one game there, which, again, is like Idaho knocking off Ohio State right now. Like, it was a pretty big deal that they got a single win at all. But Coach Anderson down at Utah Tech is a guy who has not had a bunch of even coordinating experience. This is really a guy getting his first shot to take the reins of not just one side of the ball, but the entire program. And is, like you said, they're a recent D2 move up. Like this is a very young program, fresh program that's working through things. For me, when you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any quarterbacks. And Troy Taylor at Sac State is the only person that has convinced me otherwise in the last 20 years. It didn't matter that you knew what Asher O'Hara was going to do when he came in. He still succeeded at doing it. And that was an incredible flash in the pan system that obviously he went to Stanford and things didn't work out so well there. And now Troy Taylor is looking for his next home. But you look at the quarterbacks for Utah Tech, and Tom Kendall in the comment section shouting out, both quarterbacks are from Dixie High School. So both Both
Yeah.
guys are real local to the program. Again, like
Yeah.
I mentioned, both of them are guys that went on their missions and came back, so they're a little bit older. You've got Bronson Barban, he's a redshirt freshman, and Reggie Graff, he's a redshirt junior. Weirdly enough, it's not like one guy is necessarily the running quarterback and the other guy is the throwing quarterback. They both have similar skill sets. How it ends up in the game might look a little bit different, but they do have pretty similar skill sets, Colby.
Yeah, and like you said, both are local guys, right? Like this is their hometown team, and like, what's up with so many Bronsons in Southern Utah lately? Like, what's up with that, dude? Anyway, that's a Bronson Barron joke for the Stripes fans out there. Death, taxes, and losing to Bronson Barron. That's who you guys are.
McLean, you better be listening.
Yeah, you better be listening, McLean. That might be the only thing I have on the Stripes this year because man, we are not looking good in Ogden. But I think you're right though that like there are. It's not necessarily that like one is the running quarterback and one is the throwing quarterback, but I think that so far in the two contests that they've been in, we've kind of seen one quarterback lean one way and one quarterback lean another. But I also wanted to ask you, like, do you think that that's more just what the game gave them in those moments, right? And so like that's what had to be done.
Yeah, I fully do. Like Reggie Graff ended up. So, guys, just to go back one step. So again, Bronson Barban is quote unquote the starter. Reggie Graff is the backup. Reggie Graff has been their quarterback before. He's been around for a couple of years. Again, Barban being a or a redshirt freshman, only played 4 games last year before redshirting. Barban is 27 for 46 this year with 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions. Graff is 16 for 29 with 2 touchdowns and an interception. This is through the air. Graff has significantly better rushing numbers than Barban does. But when you look at the games and how they went, and UC Davis, Graff threw 5 passes. It was 4 for 5. He did have a couple touchdowns in there, but Barban was the guy that was in there as they're throwing the ball around. They ended up having a 2.5 quarter lead on UC Davis. That doesn't mean shit at the end of the game, but they were at least producing enough to do something. Then you come around to NAU and man, they just completely abandoned the pass. They had 136 yards of passing against NAU. Graff went 12 for 24, but he did add 74 yards and 2 touchdowns with his legs. So it was kind of just one of those like, hey, I think it just is how it worked against NAU. They were obviously down 31-7, and instead of just unleashing through the air, they committed to the run game and somehow brought themselves back into it. I don't expect to see Barban's going to throw it and Graff's going to pass. I think they're just going to, again, when you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any. So you're figuring it out based on vibes of how the guy is doing and what's working best against Idaho.
Yeah, and I think that, well, one thing I was going to say is that, you talked about the 2 quarterback system. I was like, the only time I think that we've seen that really work, like the Sac State thing, like it kind of worked. But Montana State with Malott and Chambers, right? Like that system was, and I think what worked for them was that both could throw, right? Like because Weber tried to do this thing where we had this one guy, and every time he came in, everybody knew that like he's gonna run, like he's not gonna throw the ball. And I think that when you're one dimensional like that, it just falls on its face. Like you cannot do that. You cannot be that transparent where it's like, oh, this guy, yeah, just sell out and load the box, right? Like because he's not gonna throw. You can't do that, and it feels like maybe they're trying to get the guys to throw more, but I think you're right that in that second game against NAU, Tech just did what they could get because to NAU's credit, and I don't like giving NAU credit, that secondary is really good. Like it was last year and it is again this year. And so they did burn, Barban pretty quick and pretty early, and so they pulled him. And like you said, 31-7. That was the point where I turned the game off and went and found another game on ESPN.
Yeah, right.
Plus. I was like, it's over. Like, because I think they were only like halfway through the second quarter at that point. Like after the pick 6, it was just like we're over here. But like you said, they slept on them in the second half. They found what worked for them, and they found a way to get back in it and put a scare into NAU. And so Idaho needs to make sure that they don't make the same mistake.
That's really what it comes down to, right? You look at what Utah Tech has done this year, and it is like if you play solid football and you don't walk in expecting to win, like it's very apparent when the talent of NAU and UC Davis showed up and when it didn't show up. And when it didn't show up, Utah Tech almost got back into that game. They scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter that made it look closer than it was because it was 38-17 at one point and then it ends 38-31. But that's still, you're putting a scare into the team to the point that a bounce happens differently. and all of a sudden we're talking about, wow, this team knocked off NAU. Holy shit, what's going to happen? In our comment section, I want to say there's a lot of cough Rocco. Idaho also has that little bit of problem where Rocco Coke goes in and everybody knows he's going to run the football. Didn't really work that well with Zach Borish. Hoping that Matt Linehan and Thomas Ford have something a little bit more creative cooked up for some of those Rocco runs. But and when he gets in on inside the 5, I think everybody knows what's going to happen. Now stopping, it's a different question, but as you move through the season, you got to find a little bit more creativity than that. But
Yeah, you can't be that
often,
transparent because, like you said, they'll just load the box on you. It's like, okay, and then it's just completely ineffective, and like you're just wasting it down. But
and,
if you are gonna sell out though, like if you, and they're gonna say, oh, this guy's gonna run, just run a tight end behind the defense and just kind of, it doesn't you don't have to be like, you don't have to have a huge arm. If you're in those situations, it's like just a little something over the top gets you a touchdown.
especially if you are getting them into a spot where they're selling out and putting 8, even 9 guys in the box and just one-on-one the corners outside, like all you got to do is have that tight end release just a little bit and just float it to him, just float it up and it'll work. And again, it'll work until it doesn't, and then they'll figure something out. Tom Kendall in the comment section, wait a minute, did you see Borish tear up Eastern? That was a lot of fun. That was the best moment of Borish ball, was Zach Borish absolutely just shredding the defense for Aaron Best. But then again, Best ball stayed salty, and Idaho is now in a significantly better situation. So thank you for doing your duties, Aaron Best, and getting the Petrino family out of here. But going back to the offense, Colby, running back is maybe their next most important position, which is ironic because Graff still leads the team in rushing yards, but they do have a redshirt freshman, Asa Chapman, who has 18 carries, 84 yards, and a touchdown. He's been pretty productive this year. The guys behind him have combined 11 carries between them. Chapman's also a huge threat in the passing game. He's like their third or fourth leading receiver because they do a lot of checkdowns to the running back. So that's probably another name to focus on. I think Chapman might end up being one of those guys that has a pretty big game against Idaho.
Yeah, and I felt like you saw more of him in that second game against NAU. He felt like because they did go more to the run game that they sort of went after him, and he had a decent day on in that game was in Flagstaff, so like 63 net and a touchdown, and like the long was only 17 yards, so it's like that's a pretty productive day for a guy who's I think he's in the redshirt freshman, like he's just kind of starting to figure it out.
Yeah, very young. Redshirt freshman played, I think he only played 3 games last year.
Yeah, so it's like he's kind of figuring it out, and I think that in some ways that like that running back position is kind of open for them. Like RB1 is open for who wants it, and so if he continues at that clip, he's probably going to be the guy. But the check down thing I think is important too because, like you said, it's one thing to have a guy who can really run it up the middle or between the tackles and get you 4 yards when you need it, but having hands and being able to be that pressure release when you need it, like that just makes a guy so annoying.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that's something that Idaho is really looking for. At least us as Vandals fans are looking for. Again, Eli Cummings is probably the leader in the clubhouse for who's the guy that's going to start being able to maybe not line up in the slot, but at least catch some balls out of the backfield and get shifted over into the slot in a true, hey, we got to have 5 guys running routes type of situation. Weirdly enough, Colby, this is a team that has 13 catches from their receivers in 2 games. They had 3 receivers, or excuse me, 3 caught passes by receivers against NAU. Like this is a team that's very hard to judge because of it's such a huge swing between Bronson Barbin goes out and throws 39 passes against UC Davis, and then the next week they have 136 passing yards. Like it's so wildly swings. I don't even have anybody that I would necessarily call out as like, hey, this is the guy to watch because we don't know enough about their receivers. They're not catching passes, they're not making plays. It's all essentially been checkdowns to the running back, and then their 2 tight ends are really the focal point of their offense.
Yeah, I mean, if you go look at their numbers and you look at like you said, the yardage on who is getting those opportunities, who is catching the ball, who is it's TEs, right?
Colby, I don't know if you can turn your audio up at all on your end, but I am getting comments that you're a little bit quiet. I do hear you a little quiet. I'm also very loud, so that could be part of the problem.
No, I'm worried about this too because like in the intro, they like do the test, and I'm like doing the thing, and it's a little bit quiet. So we'll work on maybe adjusting some stuff here on my side to see if that can make a difference.
Cool. I will ramble away then. So at tight end, guys, redshirt junior Eric Olson is the guy to know there. He leads the team with 9 catches, 69 yards and a touchdown. He's they're the focal point of that offense, much like the St. Tommy's last week. The tight end was the focal point of that passing game. We're going to see a lot of that here. Sophomore Caden Eggett also has a handful of receptions, 6 catches for 117 yards on the year. They do play primarily 11 personnel as their base, so just one tight end on the field most of the time. But those two guys are going to shift in and out enough that is who to be concerned about. Crewhead 76 in the comment section. We better cover the damn tight ends this week. Couldn't agree more. This is that's the one scary thing here is, man, Idaho let that St. Tommy's tight end run all over him. It was free in the middle of the field way too many times. And then you have a team that comes in here with maybe not a great passing attack, but when their top 2 receivers are their tight ends, that's not a great recipe for what Idaho did defensively last week.
Yeah, you got to watch that, right? Like you can't just expect, and also like you want to be the type of team that makes it difficult or people don't want to run across the middle on you, right? Like you want people to think twice about that, and if they know that they're taking a risk, and so you got to shore that up.
Yeah, Fishgate in the comment section. Andy Kaus, do they have a gorilla-sized tight end? Well, the 2 tight ends that I mentioned, Andy Olson, the starter, is 6'5", 230, and Caden Eggett is 6'3", 240. So they are pretty large dudes. And then their third stringer is also, I think, 6'4", 250. So trotting out some mountainous men there, but that's kind of what happens when you do have a roster built on guys that are maybe not into their athletic prime, but right on the verge of it. That's just kind of what happens. I certainly looked a whole lot better at 25 than I did at 20, just based on genetics and growing fully into your body. It just happens.
It's the way it happens, right? And that's why, you mentioned the OMs, right? Like that's why that matters. 2 years matters. It matters.
Mm-hmm. It really does, especially we haven't gotten to the offensive line. We obviously talked about it a little bit there, but all 5 of their starters are listed over 290 pounds. 3 of them are over 300. Like this is a really large offensive line. The left tackle has 10 plus starts. The left guard graduated high school in 2020, and he's listed as a redshirt sophomore. So like there's some age here. Their center graduated in 2019. He's also got 10 plus starts. The right guard, Dallin Johnson, 6'3", 295, is the only guy that's not a old Mormon. He transferred down from BYU last year and did not take a mission, just went straight to BYU and now has transferred down. Then their right tackle, Matthew Snar, is also an older Mormon, graduated in 22 and is currently a freshman this year. And so you're playing young freshman guys, but man, there is some bulk here. And if you're Idaho, man, St. Thomas did look pretty good offensively for a good chunk of that game based off of just how big and physical their offensive line was. A third straight week where Idaho's got a bigger than average offensive line to deal with.
Yeah, and you guys and Kevin talked about that last week, right? About how the Tommies were going to come in and they did want to be physical, and maybe that's sort of out of the norm for a Pioneer League team. That's not really what they normally do because they don't these are non-Scully guys, right? So
yep.
Now you have Scully guys, and I think that the 2-year mission thing I think gets built into a lot of team strategies in ways that maybe if you live outside of that bubble you don't realize. So I don't know, man. When we were doing the preview, we talked about how maybe speed on the defensive line was going to be the order of the day, and that was going to be kind of the thing that you guys were going to try and implement. And so size can matter, right? Like it matters when you get late into the FCS playoffs. I mean, we've seen it a billion times that if you lose in the trenches in the quarters, you lose. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But you guys have maybe tried to do something a little bit different, and coaching matters. So maybe the size won't be as big of a deal because skill will come in and speed, and that can matter too.
Yeah, and that's where we've before we transition over to the defense. Colby, any final thoughts on the offense before we transition to talking about the defense and how they line up against the Idaho offense?
No, I think that you have to sort of, like we've already talked about, you if you do what NAU did and they made it really, really tough, they will go one dimensional. And if they do that, you are probably in a really good spot because NAU did go up 31-7 at one point in that game. So if you take that away, they can have to try and figure something out. And that's probably exactly where Idaho wants them, because then they have to be one dimensional. But you got to set that precedent probably early in the game, because otherwise they're just going to keep trying.
Exactly, especially with an Idaho secondary that is maybe leaky is maybe not the right word, but still kind of figuring things out. The depth chart has changed for anybody that's not as eagle-eyed or paying as much attention as we are. Zach Woostig, former Portland State guy, played a bunch of games for them last year, is now listed as a starting safety for the Vandals. We kind of expected that. He's been getting a lot of playing time. He's now taken over from Hayden John, I believe took over from Matt Irwin. Hayden John is still the other safety. So seeing a little bit of change there in those DBs. Caleb Ricks is going to continue getting more and more snaps as a true freshman because they are so high on him. The Idaho DBs are going to get better, but man, when you're talking a team that's going to go one dimensional and thankfully has not succeeded throwing the ball a ton this year, that does line up pretty well for Idaho. You've got to be disciplined and you got to be smart. But moving on to the defense and how they line up against the Idaho offense, 3-4 base. They have 8 sacks in 2 games. So they do get after the quarterback. That's the one thing they are really good at. Their defensive line is pretty large. Again, they're bigger Mormon guys, older Mormon guys. Like there's going to be some heft there. They do rotate a decent amount in their outside linebackers and their DBs. Nothing that's like terribly scary to me, Colby. Anywhere you want to start from those position groups.
So I think that is something that you do want to point out early, right? Is that they have had opportunities to get to the quarterback, and I think in some situations has helped them get back in the game when those stretches where, maybe early against Davis, I can't remember how many times they sacked Davis's guy, but like it was kind of a lot, right? And it was like, okay, and he's a young kid and he's figuring it out. But that was probably the thing that made it difficult for Davis to do what they wanted to do early. And then afterward, against NAU, then they start to do the same against them. And so you got to watch it. Like, they can get after you. But, I mean, I guess we could say that about anybody. Like, that's the job of DL, of defensive linemen, right? Like, they're supposed to get after you. And so just be aware and do your best to shut that down. And if you do, it doesn't seem to me that their secondary is above average. I mean, how do you see their secondary, Alice?
Yeah. So just to buttress the point on the sacks, they did have 5 sacks against UC Davis, 3 against NAU. So they are. It's not like it's all built into one game. So they are pretty consistent at it. Defensively on the D-backs, Justin Houston is one of their starting safeties. He played at Fresno State a bunch over the last handful of years.
Highly recruited.
The team. Yeah, exactly. Very big recruit. It's honestly kind of shocking that he's here for his 5th year. Kind of thought he might end up somewhere in between Fresno State and Utah Tech. There's a lot of places to go there. Kind of weird that he dropped down here, but also he came in and is like the unquestioned starter, the unquestioned best player on at least in the secondary. I'd say probably the best player in their defense. Leads the team with 16 tackles, has one of their 2 interceptions this year. Their other safety, Brevin Chesnica, who came from NAU last year. Again, that NAU secondary that's been pretty good. I mean, honestly, throughout the ball years and even in the first year of the right era. He transferred in from NAU. He has their other interception. Those 2 safeties are pretty damn good. That's where I would be most concerned if I'm Idaho. The corners kind of rotate a lot. They have 2 guys that are over 6 feet that play a good amount, and then 2 guys that are under 6 feet that play a good amount. They all have very similar statistics, all have very similar snap counts. The kind of a rotation there, even on the depth chart, they list them out as or in one of the cornerback spots where it is just kind of a free for all rotation there. But
and that's also something, right? The or tells you something about how the coaching staff feels about their options.
Exactly. And that's also kind of what happens when you are a 3-4 and you got to start dropping guys off to get DBs in. Well, what's going to happen is they're probably going to drop an inside linebacker. They have specifically Dalen Love is the guy that plays all the time. The inside backer next to him is typically either Mo Passy or Logan Pilley. Neither of them are consistently on the field because they're dropping them off and typically bringing in one of those extra or corners because again, it feels like they have a plethora of decent defensive backs that they got to get on the field somehow, and the rotation is currently what's working for them. But Colby, the one guy I want to hit on is Dallin Havaya. He's got 3 sacks. He does not start. He had 2 sacks against UC Davis. That's kind of, for me, the biggest and scariest thing about a team is when the guy who's leading the team in sacks and pressures and realistically most stats is not starting because he's a redshirt freshman and very young in his career. He's a super sub at this point. He comes on for passing downs, and then he does end up playing most of the game outside of that. But he comes on for those passing downs and does do a really good job of wrecking the field when he gets the chance to do so.
Yeah, like I said, redshirt freshman. I mean, 6'2", 250. This guy is making a mess. He had two against Davis, like you said, 1 against NAU, and so he is definitely a guy you have to watch because, I don't know, sometimes linebacker play can be it can be such a game changer or it can be such a liability.
Yeah.
Right? And it feels like this guy is a guy that can make it more of the first rather than the second, right? Where it's like you have to account for him, and so sometimes that means tight end stays on the line or something like that, right? To account for maybe an extra person trying to put pressure on the quarterback, and that affects the pass game, right? And so we'll just kind of have to see how they scheme to minimize his effect because, as you said, like the numbers show that like he can make a mess if you let him.
If you let him, he will get out there and wreck the game. I mean, I can't think of the last time the Vandals had a guy that had multiple sacks in one game that wasn't Keyshawn James Newby, and we all exploded of like, look how great this guy is. And unfortunately, injuries took off the back half of that year. But when you have a guy that's coming in and getting multiple sacks in his first, what would those have been, games 5 and 6 for him after playing 4 and then redshirting last year? So a guy like that's only going to get better. You don't want to give that guy a chance against a ranked Idaho team to, hey, look, we're still in it. We got to go get after that passer. You don't want to see him in those situations. You want to get him off the field early by taking such a big lead that it's not going to matter at the end. But
like you said, don't let them believe because that is the worst thing that you can do.
That's the whole story of this episode, right? Colby is this is not a team. You take a blind poll of these two teams. This is not a team that out-talents Idaho. This is not a team that has a more prestigious coaching staff than Idaho. There's not a lot about this school that you look at and say, yeah, they're going to beat Idaho in this area, in this area, in this area. But those are the teams that are scary. This is when it becomes the trap game. As Tom Kendall says, and more athletic. Idaho, significantly more athletic team. But that's where we get into the trap game. We're going to get to the keys of the game in just a second. But first, guys, Pacific Custom Sportswear. Nothing against Walk On Apparel. We love you, Colby, so much. But Pacific Custom Sportswear has just launched vandalgear.com. You can see it on the screen right now. They've got all the Fightin' Taters gear from last week. If you're looking for Fightin' Taters gear, they've got plenty of it. And again, guys, I've got one of the shirts. It's the nicest, softest shirt I've ever had. They've been in business for 25 plus years, working with U of I and other regional companies and schools. Again, if you're looking for the best Idaho gear on the planet, you're going to find it here. Martin, blow up one of those yellow shirts for me so the people can see what we're talking about. It is the 50th anniversary of the Kibby Dome, so the Vandals are getting weird with stuff. Obviously, the Fightin' Taters last week, which was hugely popular on social media. Well, they have announced they are wearing special 50th anniversary jerseys this week, styled after the Vandals jerseys in the 70s that are the yellow jerseys, black numbers, and the gray stripes on the sleeve. You might not be able to buy one of those jerseys right now, guys, but what you can do is you can go to vandalgear.com and get T-shirts with the beautiful pride gold and those gray striped jerseys. Martin's got it up on the screen now with Nate Azzopardi and Sam Brown rocking the special 50th anniversary jersey. I think it's beautiful. It's my favorite thing the Vandals have done in the last week, which is actually saying a lot. But again, guys, vandalgear.com. I know we can't buy the jerseys right now, but you can at least get the t-shirt that looks like it. Get yours today. Pacific Custom Sportswear, we thank you. vandalgear.com, baby.
By the way, they're doing the Big Sky, the throwback Big Sky patch on those jerseys. Did you see the reveal video today? Like,
beautiful. That video is so good.
And the Fighting Tater stuff last week was just like, oh my gosh, like this is so clean. It's so clean.
It really, man. I know there's a little bit of bias from your side, but man, the guy in charge over there, Jarek, is doing a great job, and the guy right beneath him is maybe doing an even better job. So shout out AC. We love you, man. Thank you for everything you're doing for the program and for what you've done for Weber State as an alum over the years. But keys to the game, Colby. I'm going to make this one real easy for you. What do the Trailblazers have to do to win this football game?
So if you're the Trailblazers, you're going to try and come into this game, and you're going to want to disrupt what Idaho does early, which you talked about when we put together the preview for Idaho. We talked a lot about the three-headed monster that out of the backfield with the running backs like Elijah Cummings, good. And so if you are Utah Tech, you're going to want to try and take that away. But I think more so than that, you're going to want to contain the quarterback, right? Like Wood has been very slippery, and he's gotten a lot of rushing yards in the last couple of weeks because he's hard to tackle. And so that's always a nice to have if you're Idaho, because it's like if the play is broken, we know that our guy can go and he can get us 4 or 5 on a busted play. And if you're the Trailblazers, like you're going to want to keep that guy contained. Easier said than done. I mean, but if you want to win, you need to keep him in the pocket and force him to throw.
And if you get him out of the pocket, you have to bring him down, because there was a pretty famous play last weekend that I think is going to exist on a lot of highlight reels for a long time of Joshua Wood rolling out of the pocket to his right, just making time before just hucking the ball down the field to a wide open receiver. Stuff we haven't seen a Vandal quarterback do in quite a while. I love Giovanni McCoy. He did great here. He was not I'm going to buy some time back here and still get rid of the ball. It was, okay, Hatton's not open. Jackson's not open. Okay, timer's off. Take off, which was great. But, man, Joshua Wood is a bigger guy with a bigger arm. As Andy Cow says in the comment section, you're not going to arm tackle Wood. You have to keep him in the pocket. You have to make him beat you with the arm. But, I mean, he did that last week against the Tommies. Honestly, it's a pretty tough task for the Trailblazers to do this. On offensively, man, they've just got to find a passing attack. They have to be able to consistently throw the ball on the Vandal secondary to be able to hang with this team. But we're obviously trying to sell them up here, Colby. Your keys to the game if you're the Vandals. What do the Vandals have to do to win this one?
So we saw last week, and you guys talked to Kevin Marshall from FCS Nation Radio about this, about how the Tommies were going to come in and be physical, and I felt like Idaho met that challenge, right? They obviously won the game, but as time went on, they sort of figured it out. Tommies had less success, and they sort of eventually, the game was in hand. And so I think if you're the Vandals, knowing what you learned from the Tommies last week, now you're going to want to come in and say, okay, they were physical. I don't think that Utah Tech is going to be as physical as the Tommies, right? Like, they are not that team. And so bring that grit that you learned from the previous week in the Dome with you. The crowd's going to be with you. It's going to be a big to-do. You have the cool jerseys. Like, you can out-physical this Utah Tech team. And we've already talked about it. Idaho is going to be a more athletic team. So use that. Use that to go up early, because if you do that, they're a team that is not good at winning, like you've pointed out, right? Their one win is against Central Arkansas, which is weird because they were good, but like whatever.
They were good, and then that ruined their season. They completely fell off the cliff after losing to Utah Tech.
Yeah, and so they're not a team that wins, right? And so use that against them. Use that knowing that, like, we're more physical, we're more athletic, and we believe in Wood. So let's just give him the keys, make smart decisions. They will make the mistakes, capitalize on those mistakes, and the game's yours.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Offensively, defensively, man, you got to keep the playmakers in front of you. Just it sounds weird to cry out for the Dan Jackson, let's play cover 4 and just not screw anything up, but that's what I want to see out of the Vandals. Now, I'm being very, very facetious here. Yes, I want to see Cordennison continue to attack the ball and try to get guys into positions to make some big plays and get the turnovers, get the sacks that didn't come quite as frequently last year. But at the same point, this is not a team that should be able to beat Idaho unless Idaho beats themselves. And that came close to happening last week. I know the coaching staff is still not super thrilled about how things went in week 1 because that was a very winnable game that just did not happen. You gotta clean up some of those gunshot wounds that you're giving yourself. You have to figure that out. You can't be screwing things up on special teams, which I think is going to get better. But you can't be letting guys just blow open behind you. You can't be letting this running back that's 5'11", 190 pounds. You can't let him go running all over you. Like on paper, that's why they play the games. But on paper, Idaho has the advantage at almost every single position across both sides of the ball. You have to actually go out there and show you're going to push this team around.
Yeah, and they can, right? They can.
Yeah, we just hope that we see it consistently across Saturday. But gentlemen, we're going to get to our score prediction after we pick the Big Sky, because again, I like to tease you all and make you wait for our final thoughts and predictions of Idaho. But before we get to picking the Big Sky, Martin, we have a very special guest to join us. Here he is.
So if you want to make your Vandal game day your Vandal game day, look, you can't go wrong with reaching for a bottle of Snake River Stampede. You have two options. Either their entry-level Snake River Stampede, or if you want to celebrate a big Vandal win, you can reach up and grab that Snake River Stampede 1915 Small Batch Edition. Either option is a double barrel finish, first fill bourbon for both, and then your Stampede finishes in Oloroso sherry casks. Your 1915, in addition to being aged a couple extra years, it's finished in ex-Canadian rye whiskey casks. You can't go wrong either way. Grab yourself a bottle of Snake River.
Thank you, Brian, for that incredible quick drop-in that I had no idea was coming whatsoever. Really appreciate Brian and shouting out Snake River Stampede Whiskey for us, the sponsor of our show today. I'm not a huge drinker, have had issues with it in the past. So it's always nice when Brian is able to drop in and tell people exactly why you should be drinking SRS, the best whiskey on the planet. But gentlemen, it is time to pick the Big Sky. Last week, the godfather of FCS himself, Kevin Marshall, went 13-0. I said on the episode before, Kevin, I still see you in the comments. I said on the episode last week that we'd love to have you back. Now I don't know if we want you back because you kicked our asses. Again, 13-0, complete clean sweep there. Brian went 12-1. I went 11-2 because I picked Sac State to beat Nevada and almost got the bye off there. Came so close to it. Yeah, Martin went 10-3 with an asterisk because, again, we are in the Montana handicap zone. So, Martin, we're just going to rip this Band-Aid right off for you. North Dakota at Montana, who you got?
I'm gonna go with the Fighting Hawks. Obviously it's not even a difficult choice for me.
We have Brian picking the Fighting Hawks as well. Colby, your thoughts? North Dakota, Montana.
Yeah, if I'm picking from what we've seen so far already, like Montana played last week. They had the first week bye, which is weird, and then they ended up playing was it D2 school last week?
Yep.
Yeah.
Central Washington.
Yeah, it was CWU. Yeah, and so I just knowing the turnover that they had on their roster. I like a North Dakota team better than that who's, been a little bit they've been in some battles already this season. And so I would think maybe the one thing that the Grizz have going for them, this game's in Missoula, right? Yeah, that matters. Missoula's a hard place to win. So, but I think if I'm picking I like North Dakota better than Montana in this matchup because I still don't know what Montana has, and I think a lot of fans will say the same thing.
Yeah, I think Montana's pretty historically just the first half of the season under Houck 2.0 is just kind of a shotgun blast of we don't know who's going to be quarterback. We don't know what our identity is. We don't know shit. But we're still going to find our way to winning almost every single game and then buying our way into the FCS playoffs like we do every year. I hate to say it, but Colby, you made the point that I was going to focus on. It is in Missoula. I am as much as I want to pick the Fighting Hawks here, I have been burned in the past for thinking, hey, Montana doesn't know what they're doing at the beginning of the year. Somebody's going to go in and beat them. And it's been Weber State before, and one of my favorite games ever played in Missoula. But man, I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm give me the sheep lovers. I just feel like in Missoula, if this was in North Dakota, this would be a completely different story. But in Missoula, the rabid fans are gonna make life hell on the Fighting Hawks, and I think it's gonna be just enough to slip past the victory.
Yeah, I mean, because Grand Forks is a weird place to play football, right? It's a weird road trip for just about anybody in the conference. But I hear you. I mean, Wash Grizz is a place, man. It is a place.
Being right on top of the field too is just it's intimidating. If you're traveling from BF nowhere to come to what is essentially the LA Chargers stadium from back in the day, just filled with actual people that want to be there, and it's a pretty intimidating place to play. Moving on though, Northern Colorado at South Dakota. The acronyms in here are teasing my brain, Martin.
I'm gonna go South Dakota. I think they're just gonna get absolutely slaughtered. Northern Colorado. Like I know it's South Dakota. I believe I saw Sam Herder post that South Dakota lost their running back for the season, but still, I don't think it's gonna be close. I hope UNC can get out okay.
Brian is also picking South Dakota here. Colby.
The Yotes make sense, obviously. Like North Dakota, not a good team. Or Northern Colorado, not a good team, right? Like they have been bad. Like for some reason, we let them beat us on homecoming day, and I really hate that. Like I literally left the stadium yelling "Fire Mickey Mental" because that's such an embarrassing loss. But what really throws me for a loop is the way that they hung with Colorado State last week,
and should have beat Colorado State last week.
Like, that was weird. I was like, they're doing what? Colorado State? Like, is Colorado State bad or is Northern Colorado improved? But I still like the Yotes. The Yotes are, it's a Valley team against a bad Big Sky team. So even with the injury, like you said, Martin, on social media after last week's game, I still like the Yotes, man. Like, we're going back to, oh yeah, baby. But yeah, I like the Yotes.
Yeah, we're going to go clean sweep on the Yotes here. It would have been a really cool story for Northern Colorado to be just one of the most dog shit teams in FCS for years on end and then go beat an FBS school. I know they're just, they're kind of just down the road, but still an FBS win is an FBS win, no matter how you get it and no matter who it's against. They got jobbed by the officials there, unfortunately. I'm not a guy to complain about officiating because it happens on both ends and you can literally throw a flag on every play if you really tried. So I try not to call out officiating, but as Not Me says in the comments, worst home reffing snow job I've ever seen. That I don't know how they definitively said that was not a touchdown. Yeah, no, didn't ever see the angle to me, but what do you do? Regardless, the magic has gone out in Greeley. There's not a chance that South Dakota wins this one easily. Next game, guys, San Diego at Montana State.
I'm going to go with Montana State. It's not going to be close.
Brian had Montana State as well.
Yeah, obviously, like Montana State, Bobcat Stadium, right? Like this makes very, very good sense. Another weird thing though about San Diego. So SUU handles Idaho State, right? Like it's not a game.
Mm-hmm.
And then SUU goes, and I think the game was in San Diego at Torero Stadium last week, and loses to San Diego, a Pioneer League team. So, like, part of you goes, like, what's going on? But then again, it's like, this is a Montana State team that loses in double overtime to, South Dakota State. Like, they shouldn't have dropped in the rankings. They really didn't in a lot of folks. They stayed at 3 for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And so, it's like, yeah, sure, San Diego was feisty last week against an SUU team that doesn't really know what's up, I guess. But yeah, I'll be surprised if they score. Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, it's Montana State all day, and because those fans are going to be looking for redemption, man. Like a lot of people left Bobcat Stadium last weekend with a salty taste in their mouth. They did not like the way that ended, obviously, with that goal line stand. So they're going to want something else, and I think the team's going to feel the same way.
Yeah, I am still kind of blown away that San Diego did beat a ranked Southern Utah team, and the rankings, especially at this point, don't really matter because again, Bruce Barnum is giving Northern Colorado votes, so it really doesn't matter at all.
What's up with that, dude? Barney is like just off the hook this year, man. Like they didn't even score a touchdown until last week. What, they went like 3 weeks?
Yep. They're like 10 quarters in, and they finally get their first touchdown. What a gong show! But man, San Diego lost to Cal Poly 41-17 to start the year at home. I think I'm closer to Duffer on this one. I would be shocked if they score. Give me the Bobcats all day in that one. As you mentioned, our favorite top 5 team in the nation. We're just going to jump for it. Top 5 Portland State against Hawaii, guys, in Hawaii.
In Hawaii. That's the whole reason they booked this game, right?
That Barney wanted himself a trip. I can't blame him for it.
He's getting paid to go to Hawaii, so, you know.
Martin, any thoughts other than Hawaii?
I think there's probably going to be more people that get sunburned for Portland State than the number of points they score.
That's probably true.
I think Barnum probably wears the tackiest Hawaiian shirt for the game, hopefully, and we all get to joke at him about that. But Hawaii wins this one easily.
Yeah, Brian also picked Hawaii in this one.
Yeah, I mean, Rainbow Warriors, obviously, like, dude, easy pick. They're playing on their home turf, and like, dude, it's a hoof, right? It's a trip to get out there and play football. Mm-hmm. What is it, like 2 time zones away? Like, it's
not an easy trek, that's for sure. Yeah,
but I guess Barney has the last laugh because he's getting paid to take a trip to Hawaii, regardless of what happens. So whatever, but give me Hawaii.
Yeah, I think the most interesting number here is Captain 58 in the comment section. Over under on Barney's pina coladas on the trip, 20.5. I'm probably going to go under only because I feel like he's got to coach a little bit on Saturday. If it was just like, hey, we're hanging out in Hawaii and we're just going to show up like 5 minutes before the game kicks off and just get our asses kicked and head off, then yes, you hit the over on that every day. But man, the Rainbow Warriors, as Crewhead 76 says, I feel like that's you gotta go that way. I can't imagine picking Portland State in any game this year. But to circle back around to some actual full FCS action that maybe is kind of interesting. Eastern Washington at Northern Iowa, Martin.
I'm just going based off of what I remember, and we all know that UNI is a perennial playoff team at 6-5. I'm gonna go UNI.
Brian also went with UNI.
Oh man, this one is so weird because obviously like Eastern has not looked good in the games that they've played in the FCS matchups, and they've played on the road. I don't think they played at home yet, have they? No, they did. They started the season against Tarleton State, and they got whooped, right?
Yeah.
Right? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. And we've all tried to block that game out.
Yeah, that was Portland State that happened. But anyway, like
Eastern's I think first game is next weekend. I want to say against Western Illinois at home.
Yeah, right. So I'm thinking it was PSU that they got whooped by Tarleton State. But like Eastern just hasn't looked great. This is a road game. The UNI Dome is weird, but they can be choke artists, right? Like I think about like 2 or 3 years ago when Weber State went to the UNI Dome in a year that we were not good, and we beat them. They let us beat them on their like dumb, right? That's just dumb. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. This Eastern team has not looked great in the matchups that they had, so taking the Panthers is probably the safe bet, and that's probably what I'll do. But I don't know. Maybe best he figures something out.
Yeah, I mean, again, the best days are behind the Eastern Washington football program. Circling the drain, as Captain 58 says. Again, Crewhead 76. Eastern loses another on the best farewell tour. Like it feels like this is just the end of this program. The only real shot I think that they've got is if Stepsis is caught in the dryer and just isn't able to make it out to the game. He was the coach at Drake the last few years and turned that program around.
Good.
They were. I mean,
in mind, Drake beat Eastern last year in Cheney.
Yeah,
in Cheney, and now the guy's at a school that offers scholarships. Yes, he's going to go into his third game, but man, you got to give me the Panthers on this one. I just don't see East. I think Eastern is, of all the teams that we talked about in the preseason, of what team could just collapse. Portland State had already collapsed years ago, but I think Eastern, we're finally seeing just everything has crashed out. But That's a clean sweep for you and I here, guys. Western Oregon at Cal Poly. And before anybody else gets to make the joke, I will make the joke. The winners are those who do not watch this game. Martin.
I think I'm gonna make this decree on here. We're not gonna take two D2 games next week. Next time there's games like that on Tubs because this is boring as fuck. Cal Poly.
Yeah. Brian had Cal Poly as well.
Don't schedule D2 games, man. Just don't do it. Just stop doing it. It's like, to me, it's like when basketball teams schedule NAIA teams. Like, what are we doing, man? Like, what are you doing? Why are you wasting everyone's time? This is stupid. Taking Cal Poly, even though they did score on Utah last week, so they got that going for them. Right? And Utah fans are out here talking about they're going to win the Big 12 again this year. They're talking about that again. So they had some success against the Utah secondary that also is very good. So, Poly.
Yeah, give me Coward Poly in this one. Like you said, Colby, don't schedule D2 games. Just stop it. I'm glad Idaho has finally moved on from that and started making the home and home things happen. Yes, St. Thomas is not necessarily a draw, but it's a whole lot better than paying Central Washington or the vaunted Simon Fraser rivals to come down from Canada. Like, obviously they don't exist anymore, but it makes so much more sense to don't throw a week away just to schedule a D2 school. Let them play another D2 school. They'll be fine. McLean Westbrook in the comment section. Vegas has the bye week as a 14.5 favorite over Idaho State. I'm sorry, McLean. It is going to be another rough year in Bengal land. But Brian's not here, so that's as much ISU talk as we're going to get into today. Moving on, NAU at SUU, gentlemen.
I'm going to go NAU.
Oh, man,
and Brian has NAU as well.
I just don't know what to think, right? Because SUU looked absolutely amazing against Idaho State, and then they lose to San Diego. And, like, I guess the thing they have going for them is that this game is in Cedar City, so they don't have to travel. But elevation is not your friend here. You know, the Lumberjacks are coming down from 7,000 feet, so they're like, yeah, cool, fine, whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to us.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to us. Yeah, man, I think I like NAU better here just because, I don't know, man. NAU is just, they're pesky, and they're the kind of team that just seems to, it seems like they've moved away from being that team that finds a way to lose to now being like this gritty, annoying team that like squeaks one out on you. Feels like that's who they've become with this new coach from Pittsburgh State, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and so I'm probably taking NAU, but I would not be shocked if the game was close.
Yeah, I think it'll be a close game. Most of our comment section saying NAU here. Jason Mayer saying NAU looking past SUU. McLean in their comments also saying SUU, I hope. I think it's going to be a pretty close game, and realistically, guys, if you're watching this game, you're looking for, is NAU going to be a fringe playoff team, and what can you glean out of SUU when they are in the conference next year? Outside of that, who really cares about SUU at this point? They're going to probably get crushed against UC Davis the following week, and then they run into their conference schedule where obviously much more important for them. But outside of NAU and UC Davis, for me, like, okay, move on. They'll be back next year. Everybody's rosters are going to change over with the transfer portal. We'll see how they are in year 5 under Delane Fitzgerald, or maybe he gets fired. Who knows? It's a program in flux because, as you said, Colby, they lost to San Diego, which is not typically something you see a decent FCS school do just because of the Pioneer League not having scholarships. But I digress. Moving on, 3 games left here. Mercyhurst at Sac State. Too many words, too many letters.
Sac State gets their first win, unfortunately.
Brian also had Sac State.
Yeah, likely the case, right? Like Sac, they probably should have won against Choate's Nevada Wolfpack last weekend, right? So, Mercyhurst, probably not the strongest team coming in. So, yeah, Sac's easy pick here.
Yeah, Mercyhurst 4-7 last year, and then this year lost 24-15 at Youngstown State, and then beat New Haven 48-14 last week. New Haven, who is a first-year member of the Northeast Conference. Yeah, you got to go Sac State here. If Sac State loses this game, burn all of the hype that I have been talking about Brendan Marion figuring out that offense and getting that program back to some sort of respectability. If they lose this game, man, you send that team back to D3 because Luke Wood will be even crazier. Sac State makes it rain and looks a little like the president thinks they should, as Jason Mayer says. Yeah, if they're talking a big game about FBS. If you can't go kick the fucking teeth in on this team, you probably don't belong in the FBS.
If they don't win this, they need. I want to say it's the CSAC, the California State Athletic Conference, whatever the D3 conference is in California.
Yep, bury them. That is a clean sweep, guys, for yet another game. Again, not a whole lot of close ones this week, but we're getting to the final game before Idaho. This one we saved just for our pal Colby. Weber State at McNeese.
Yeah, take
Marten.
a trip to Lake Charles. Yep.
Martin, thoughts?
To be honest, I don't know much. I'm just going off of I don't know much. I'm just going to go Weber because vibes are telling me to pick Weber, and I believe Mariners. Since Mariners somehow got an Etsy wish to unfuck them, I am going with Weber State.
Brian also went with Weber State, and I wrote down in our outline Weber, but just for Colby, because if he takes McNeese, I'm taking McNeese. So, Colby, without further ado, you're making both of our picks here.
Yeah, this is the return game. Like I said, they came to Ogden last year, and last year they were Clifton McDowell, basically, right? Like that's who they were, and that's kind of how things went for them. They did end up beating Weber State in Ogden. So now this is a trip. I don't know what we have. Weber State has played JMU and Arizona the last 2 weeks, and both those teams lit them up, right? Especially the Weber State secondary looked really bad last weekend, like bad guys, and part of that you can blame on they had a long lightning delay and all this other weird stuff happened, but just things have not looked good defensively for the Wildcats, and I feel like it's always a recipe for disaster when you can't stop the other team effectively. So I do want to take Weber State. I heard that some guy posted in the Weber State fan group on Facebook that Weber was favored by 14, and so I text my good buddy Montana Parlay. I was like, Parlay, if you find any sports book that has Weber minus 14, you need to smash McNeese plus 14.
Fuck.
I was like, dude, what? So I don't know. Weber is very bad at covering, and but I want to believe that like we're better than they are. I don't know if we actually are. We don't know what we have. They've not looked good against the last two FBS teams, so we'll see. Don't be shocked if Weber loses, but I got to pick the alma mater just because McNeese annoys me.
We're gonna go with it, guys. A clean sweep here for Weber State over McNeese. Again, this is maybe the most unknown game of the week because for those who aren't diehard Weber State fans, like probably most of our listeners, blowout loss against FBS James Madison, even bigger blowout loss against FBS Arizona. Like you're not going to learn a ton from those. But then McNeese gets blown out by FBS Louisiana last week, and the week before that they beat an NAIA school. So congrats to beating an NAIA school.
Don't schedule those games.
Just a complete waste of a game. Matt Viator is back now with McNeese after having been there from like 2006 to like 2016, 2015. Took him to the playoffs 5 or 6 times when moved up to Louisiana Monroe. Did not succeed there and is back in charge for his first game at McNeese. So historically a good program underneath Matt Viator, but again, week 3, neither team we know what's going on. So we're just going to stand in solidarity with our boy Colby. Weber State all the way. Gentlemen, it is time for the final prediction. Utah Tech at Idaho. We're going to see the comment section flood in here, but very quickly before we get to that, I do want to just point out, if you guys like what we're doing or hate what we're doing or don't tolerate us or do tolerate us or whatever, we want your money. Patreon.com/Tubs of the Club. It's how you get into the Only Tubs Discord, which is far and away the best place to talk Vandal sports, especially on game days. Like if you're in the Dome, and that's one thing. You're seeing Vandal football right in front of your face. If you are not in the Dome, man, you throw that game up on ESPN Plus, you pull up the Discord, and you've got hundreds of people to chat with. It's maybe not hundreds, but it feels like it because the thread is just constantly exploding. It's less than a cup of coffee a month to join. We'd happily take more if you've got it. But if you want to hang out with again, a bunch of people that want to talk Vandal sports, patreon.com/Tubs at the Club. With that said, gentlemen, Utah Tech at Idaho. Brian's got this game, Vandals 35-14. Martin, your call.
I'm going to go Idaho 37-13.
It's a fair prediction. Colby.
Yeah, this one, man, I do think I like Idaho in the 30s, right? So like Idaho 37, but I feel like there may be lapses in the game where Utah Tech has opportunities and capitalizes on them. So I'm going to bump that up a little bit and say like 37-21, where like maybe they get some stuff going and, you know, but the Vandals should win comfortably, and I think they will.
37-21 for Colby. That looks a whole lot like my score prediction. Very, very close. We will talk about that in just a second. But in the comment section, just to hit the folks that have been with us, riding and dying for a very long time, because typically we like to read off their predictions throughout the week as well. But when we have a guest, we tend to forget about them and bring them up as we can, and then Vandal score we finally get to you guys. So in the comment section, Tom Kendall 34-17, Jason Mayer 38-21, Steve Kurtz 37-10, Rob Maurer 41-10. Ron Lowney said earlier in the game, Vandals by 21. So thanks, Ron. We love you. You're a favorite Bobcat. 34-13 Duffers Tavern, 44-24 Not Me, Fishgate 34-17, Vandals 45-20 from Crewhead 76. Ron Lowney again, there's 42-21. Not Me saying Vandals 44, UT 34. Cap Dan 58 felt like he was too homer last time. He's going 35-25 Idaho. I'm going 38-20 for very similar reasons to Colby. Obviously, our score is a 1 point difference on each side there. I do think Idaho probably lets in a little bit more points than they should. It may be garbage time at the end of the game. It may be that, hey, second half, the foot came off the gas a little bit and let Utah Tech move the field. But man, pretty clean sweep across the comment section and from us here, guys, predicting a multiple touchdown victory for the Vandals, which would be very needed after 2 weeks of sphincter clenching. Like, man, you really should have probably beat the Tommies a little bit harder and could have beat Wazoo with a little bit more clean play. I'm predicting Idaho's going to look a little bit cleaner. The penalties are going to get a little bit less sloppy. Vandals all the way this weekend, especially 50th anniversary of the Kibby Dome, wearing some of the most beautiful jerseys the Vandals have ever designed. Make them a permanent thing. Maybe not every game, but like, come on, let's roll those out at least once a year from now on. They're beautiful. They should not go into a storage shed or sent home with the players. I mean, if the players want them, take them. But man, beautiful jerseys. Get to the Dome. Go support them. Gentlemen, we are an hour and 10 minutes in. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye to the people?
I was just going to ask, do you guys have like a throwback that you do every year? I mean, I know about, Grumpy Joe, but I wondered if there was anything on the jersey side that you guys have every year. It's
Nothing.
like, this is the throwback.
It's just as Grumpy Joe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is like our first like throwback in a long. I think it's like our first throwback ever.
Yeah, I can't remember a time since I've been a student where Idaho had a special third jersey that was like a throwback. I've never seen it before.
Special thing could be considered like those silver, the gray jerseys they had back in 2016 through 19, but that's about it.
But those were like a third jersey that they rolled out. Not
Then they
frequently,
out
but
they couldn't wear them after that because the NCAA said you can't read the numbers. So
yeah,
I had to can that.
you couldn't really read the numbers. It was pretty rough. Tom Kendall in the comment section, supposed to be throwback to 1975, but they left out the silver helmets and pants. Unfortunately, our athletic department does not have the budget to do silver helmets and pants. Crewhead 76
balling on a budget.
There we go. Crewhead 76 in the comments. We have never done a throwback. So guys, if you love these throwbacks and you want to see the silver helmets and pants make their return, donate to the VSF. Also donate to the 1889 collection because we want to keep the players here that we can next year, especially because this is a pretty damn good team. With that said, gentlemen, Martin, thank you as always for being producer Tater. I'm Dallas Hammer. Brian's off on the Nickelback tour. Colby, tell the people where they can find you and what you've been up to.
Yeah, so we moved back from Nashville, so we're back in Utah now, so we get to watch Weber State football. We get to watch them lose in person, which is great. It's my favorite. But we'll be doing some stuff for, you talked to Kevin Marshall last week, FCS Nation Radio. We'll be doing some stuff for him. We've been doing a weekly recap of the Big Sky, And it's been a lot, guys. It's been 11 games each week. I can't wait for conference play. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier there.
Yeah, so we've been doing some stuff for those guys, but always make sure to check out their. I feel like their poll is the best. They actually watch the games, and so when you get their poll, it's like, yeah, this is legit. I think they were the first folks to rank Presbyterian, which was fair. Presbyterian deserved to be ranked, right? I think they were the first ones to do it, and so. Yeah, man, make sure you check those guys out. We'll be writing for them and just following the FCS and obviously be following you guys here too. We root for Idaho. I'm trying to find a game this year to get up there. I really wanted to go to Kibby last year and it didn't work out. I really want to go this year. I want to get up there and hang out with you guys just because, Idaho fans were so great to us during Walk On Apparel and we made some really good connections with the folks up at Idaho. And plus, we got some friends. Hey, man. I love doing betting shows with Parlay. It's always fun, but
yeah, another friend of the pod. For anybody who's not seeing the YouTube comments, Captain 58, Colby and Parlay are a great duo. Again, Montana Parlay. We always thank him for coming on. Well, I'm sure we'll see him probably come around Bobcat Week this year if Bobcat Week happens. But gentlemen, we're an hour and 15 in. It is time for us to go. Colby, we hope to see you up at the Dome very shortly. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciated your shot at Craig Haley there just a minute ago. Ah, shit, and he just blocked me on Twitter for that. With that said, guys, go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
yeah, go Vandals.
Go Vandals.